like you have to like listen to like how all the different branches, how everything is functioning, take inventory of it. And then you have to figure out what's working good and what can work better and most efficiently deliver product services to your client. That is the most important thing, is to provide a good experience for all the employees, make things function properly, and deliver the best experience possible.
Welcome to the Legalpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Sager, founder and CEO of Legalpreneur, Inc. As a serial entrepreneur and someone that works exclusively with small business owners legally protecting their business, I'm dedicated to covering common legal issues faced by business owners, providing you with the business knowledge you need to catapult your business's growth and showing you just how some of the world's most elite entrepreneurs have handled these legal and business issues themselves. In true attorney fashion, the information in this episode is not legal advice. This is for informational purposes only, and you should always consult with your attorney before implementing any of the information in the show.
Hello there, welcome back. This is part 2 in our series of Kayla and Andrea going at it. Kayla, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again. Oh, wait, you can't get rid of me.
Yeah. Never getting rid of you, ever. Not even if I tried, but I wouldn't want to try. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed the interview last week. I'm excited to interview Kayla because she's just all things amazing. And I'm excited for you all to learn more about her because even though I am the visionary, I am the idea person, as you learned last week. I come to Kayla and I'm like, hey, I have an idea. None of it would happen without Kayla. She is very much the integrator, the person that just gets shit done and makes things happen. So I'm excited for you all to hear from Kayla. Kayla, can you get started and give everybody your background? Because what you all don't know, well, she did mention it last week, but of course, we met in college, but now she does bowl on tour. She's a professional bowler, and she also is just like incredible and an incredible bowler. I went to college on a bowling scholarship, but I just went, like, our coach only gave me a scholarship because I had good grades, not because I was a great bowler. On the other hand, Kayla got a scholarship for her skills in bowling. So Kayla, give us the background. Like, I want to know how you were so good at bowling growing up. Yeah, go ahead.
Fun fact, I actually didn't go to college on a bowling scholarship. I actually went to school on a volleyball scholarship.
Oh.
Bowling was just emerging when I went to college, and it was really not a thing back in the day. But yeah, my parents were super invested, as you are, with Allie and Thomas and all the things. So we played softball, we played volleyball. I was probably better at softball than I was volleyball. And then I did this thing, I bowled, and my parents really didn't know how good I was until they took me to a national tournament after someone in the community said, hey, you should take her to this national tournament. We ended up going, and I make Team USA.
That was your first tournament?
I don't think it was the first one, but it was pretty much like the first time we went to a national tournament, we were like, oh, she's okay. And then like soon, like maybe the second one, I don't even know what year it was. I made junior Team USA, and my parents were like, okay, I think she's all right at this.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that's how that happened. And then while I was there, we met Coach Dameron, who ended up bringing you to Pikeville as well. But I crossed with his daughter, and he's like, hey, you should come look at Pikeville and see about bowling. I'm like, what? Like, they offer bowling scholarships? So yeah, I ended up going. I actually stopped at Morehead State University on the way to visit them. But they couldn't offer scholarship money at that point like I needed because my parents were poor. My dad at that time had survived colon cancer. A lot of the funding, all of our financial dollars, anything extra we had were going towards medical bills and my other two brothers. So got a scholarship to go to Pikeville. So that's where I went and ended up being the best thing that ever happened. So I graduated. The professional tour wasn't a thing. It had gone bankrupt in 2008. So Ron offered me a job as the director of residence life, coordinator of student activities, and basically said, hey, if you're going to do this, you got to grow up a little bit faster, and you can't do all the things that normal 25-year-olds, however old I was at the time, do. So, but I could bowl.
But wait. You got to go back to college and talk about how well you did in college. Like, brag on yourself.
Yeah, this is like therapy session, I guess. It feels uncomfortable to talk about that stuff. But we won a national championship in 2008. I was a 2-time player of the year.
I hope y'all understand, like, player of the year throughout the entire bowling, like college bowling, not just like on the team.
Yeah.
All of college bowling. That's how amazing she is at bowling.
But so back in the day, like Pikeville, we were a contender, obviously, at the national level. But I would say that part of who I am was defined by that experience, and that our program was pretty good. We weren't the best program. But Coach Dameron taught us how to do things right. Yeah. And on the lanes and off the lanes. And because of that, I may not have been the most talented. Like, there were a couple players that were up there for player of the year each year, but I won because Ron told us how to figure things out and how to be a good person doing it. So because of that, I ended up winning 2 player of the years and found some success, which transpired into success long-term in the sport. So I graduated, didn't go on tour because there was no tour. Then 6 or 7 years after Andrea had graduated, I got this call about coaching an NCAA bowling program.
Mm-hmm. It was my senior year.
Okay, so you were still there. But I was like, what? I'm not going to coach on the East Coast. I'm not going to coach a bowling program. Like, that's crazy. Like, the vision that just didn't match where my plan had me go, what I had envisioned. So I changed that after conversations with Gary Justice, who was over the admissions department, who, I mean, he was far beyond his time at Pikeville as far as, like, he was a great mentor for us. And Coach Dameron basically said, go check this out. So I went and checked it out, ended up coaching there for 7 years, which was an incredible experience. Like, I had my own program. I could do with it what I wanted. They had success before. This program had won numerous national championships. So the fact that they wanted me to come was pretty cool.
I mean, the fact that they even reached out, I know the audience doesn't understand. Like, this was the number 1 program in the country. Yeah, they were an NCAA D1 program, and they called Kayla. Like, they called Kayla, and they were like, hey, we want you for this job, because they knew how incredible she was.
Well, they knew my strength before I did. So it was cool. I was young. I will say that. Like, I learned a lot being a young coach. My first few years, I had no idea what I was doing. But I figured it out, and we had some success, won some coach of the years. We won the conference championship a couple of times, made it to the Final Four. It was hard too, because they had won so many national championships. Yeah. You're coming into this program that's like at the top of all things, and you're brought in and expected to uphold that standard and take it to new heights. So it was rough, but it was an adventure that, again, helped define who I am today. Not what I would have planned. So and then COVID hit. And then, as you all know, especially your listeners, times are hard. I was scared to death. Like, I'm not going to have a job. Like, like, what's happening here? So the opportunity presented itself for me to step away from the program in a healthy way. They had time to hire a coach. And then I started with the Legalpreneur.
I will never forget that phone call, though. Like, COVID hit, and you were like, Andrea, I don't know if I'm going to have a job. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. And I was like, well, I need your help. I'll hire you. Like, I need some help. And
the first phone call, I think, was with Laura Sprinkle on the affiliate call. And I'm like, what are they talking about? And then we had Krisha, who was working on the project too. She was great because she really showed me how it was done. And hey, do this, figure this out, do this. So
for those listening, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, Kayla interviewed me, and I hired her right after COVID hit because this is when we started Legalpreneur, the company. So up until this time, it was just the law firm, Andrea Sager Law. And I had this huge vision of what I wanted Legalpreneur to look like. And by this time we had the Legalpreneur membership, but it was only in the law firm. And I wanted to eventually grow this Legalpreneur brand to be this huge $1 billion brand. And that's what we're in the middle of right now. And our first product was the contract vault. And what I wanted was Kayla to come on and manage the affiliates, essentially be our affiliate manager, because I knew basically a lot of our clients in the law firm came from like business coaches, referrals from business coaches. So I knew, hey, this business is going to be great. It's going to be in a great affiliate stream for business coaches. And so I wanted to have a huge affiliate program, and that's what I hired Kayla for initially. And so Laura Sprinkle, she's like the affiliate queen. She teaches affiliate programs, how to run them. And I don't think she runs them for people anymore, but she used to run like Selena Sue, Amy Porterfield. Like she's done all the biggest affiliate programs, and we hired her to teach us. And basically that's how Legalpreneur started. And so I brought Kayla on, and tell them about your first month.
What's crazy is I just thought about it. I mean, part of like I was a good fit because I also was trying to start my own business for prospective student athletes trying to get into higher education. So I was the ideal client.
Yeah.
I can relate to all of you guys, and I need to trademark this. I need to be an entity. And Andrea saying, do this, do this, do this. So it was a good fit because I would come on working with entrepreneurs in the exact same stages that I was in. So yeah, I started and I had zero background in running a business or website design or active campaign, sending out emails, whatever the platform was. I'm like, all right, let's figure it out. As Matthew McConaughey would say, all right. Which, by the way, was a great book, Green Lights. Did you tell me about that book? We're always sharing books back and forth. Promo for that. Yeah, Green Light, great book, especially for entrepreneurs.
Okay, I've never even read that. But and so you guys, she started as the affiliate manager, literally just learned everything. I remember telling her, I was like, hey, like I just need somebody that's going to figure this stuff out because I don't have the time to teach you. And she did. And then, so we had somebody, we're literally launching a new brand. Like this isn't just like this new product, like it's a whole entire brand, new website, new everything. And so we had somebody like build the website, and then that first one, the first web developer, she just took on too big of a project. I remember my last call with her, she was crying, and I was like, anyways, so we really just had to figure it out from there. And after we got it launched, she learned the affiliate program. Then she just started taking on more and more, and eventually became full-time.
Yeah, basically, I feel like the first few months was all the contracted things that you had done. It was figuring out how those things were done because there was a lot of dollars being paid. To things that we could save on. Yeah. Like we don't need to be paying this amount of money for these different things that we can figure out. So, but it was a blessing that I came on during that time because I was able to figure it out and see from the ground up how it was built and from an operation side, how it all functions into today. Yeah. So.
And then I remember because the law firm was growing just insane. Like it was insane how quickly the law firm was growing during this time. And it literally went from like me and Cassie to like 10 people within a matter of months. And so there weren't very good processes. There weren't very good procedures. And so Kayla also helped out with that as well. And so that's how she slowly just started taking over operations for both companies. And I think now, Kayla, I want to touch on operations as a whole. Yeah. Like, what do you, because I know neither one of us intended like, oh, you're going to be the operations manager. Yeah. What is your vision of an operations manager?
Like, you mean like what the ideal characteristics are of that person?
No, what do you like? What's the role?
Oh, what they do?
Yeah,
Okay,
what's the role?
I mean, basically, you just have to provide structure to it. You have to be you have to be a good listener, number one, which I wouldn't say is my strong suit, but like you have to like listen to like how all the different branches, how everything is functioning, take inventory of it, and then you have to figure out what's working good and what can work better and most efficiently deliver product services to your client. That is the most important thing, is to provide a good experience for all the employees, make things function properly, and deliver the best experience possible for your clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that sounds so simple, and it's not.
Well, like I said last week, I'm very much the visionary. Kayla is the integrator. She makes the vision happen. And as you grow in business, it is mission critical that you have somebody on the operations side. And I think it's, as you slowly grow, you can absolutely start with somebody part-time, which is how Kayla started. But eventually, like, that's going to become your right-hand person in your company, your operations manager. And you have to make sure that you have a long-term vision, because I think that's what helped me was, hey, this is what I want now, but this is the long-term vision that I have. And because you can't just be looking at what's happening right now. You always have to keep the long-term vision. I was going to say the end in mind, but there's never an end. So you have to have the long-term vision in mind, and keep in mind that it can change. Like, it can always change. Like, we've shifted so many times, but still knowing that, hey, we have a really big long-term vision. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I think that the whole, like, where you just started with that was like the whole part-time thing. Like, when you're bringing on, especially an operations person, like that's especially at the stage that we were in, like as a startup, it's really hard to bring on a full-time person immediately as operations. Number one, the long-term, like most of you who are entrepreneurs, if you're anything like Andrea, you're very much focused on the long-term goal. And so providing structure to that short-term, like the steps that you take to get there, it's hard to find someone immediately that you know is going to be a good fit. So I think that the part-time position first was a good, like, okay, make sure it's a good fit. Like, see if those steps, like part of what works with us is you figured out, is this person going to be good at implementing this? And it's just going to be a good fit for both parties. Like, are they going to be able to implement the steps to get there? You got to build some trust that what's happening, they can make it get there.
So now talking characteristics of somebody in the operations role. What you got?
Well, number one, we talk about it several times already, and you've talked about it on other episodes, but number one, you have to figure it out. Like, if I had to rely on, thank goodness Cassie was a good teacher when I came in. That is one of her, like, she's really good at teaching about where things are and how they operate at that point. So
she's also really organized, unlike me.
Yes. She brings a lot of structure and teaching. And anyway, so you got to be able to figure it out. So you have to be given a set of tasks, or like, this is the long-term vision, and you got to figure out how to get there. And figuring it out is, I think we figure that out from any of you athletes who are listening. In order to be the best, like, it's not some magical, the difference between a professional athlete that's really good at what they do versus someone who hasn't really had a lot of success. A lot of it just comes down to figuring it out. Like, it's not that they have some magic answer to it. It's, you're ambitious, you're resilient, figure it out as you go. And that is the number one thing that you have to have as an operations person, is the desire to figure it out and the skills to do so.
Yeah. And for somebody that's listening, they're like, oh, I need an operations person. Like, where do you suggest they even look? Because not all friends and family can work together. And So what are your suggestions? Do you have any?
Well, from working with you, like obviously you can put feelers out there. I really think that it comes from hiring smaller positions and getting to know that is first. Like you can't hire an operations person as your first person, I do not believe.
Yeah.
Because you first have to figure out who you work well with as the CEO and the founder, and then hire from there. So, where that person is, I don't have that miracle answer. If I did, we would launch the website tomorrow and start that as a service. But number one, you have to figure out what you're looking for before you can go out and find it, I guess. And that comes from experience working. So I don't really know that answer, but hopefully.
I mean, we've gone through that when hiring. We're like, shit, like we know we need somebody in this role. We just don't even know exactly what they're going to be doing. And so whenever we were doing a lot of hiring in the law firm, I would always tell Kayla, like, okay, let's post this job posting. And she's like, okay, well, what do you want them to do? What are the requirements? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, we had Dream Bigger. I can't remember when somebody was talking about it, but people create the positions kind of like, like you find out what someone's strengths are, and then you kind of like facilitate their position from that. Like the growth immeasurable comes from somebody who you figure out what they're good at, and then their position kind of evolves from there. You may hire somebody with the intent of virtual assistant that ends up being your operations person because they know everything. Really well. Yeah.
And that's basically what Cassie has come, which I am gonna interview her on the podcast. But she started as an assistant and then did all the paralegal stuff, and now she really pretty much is like operations on the legal, like the actual legal services. So I do like your answer where it's like you really can't just outright hire an operations manager, especially when you're new, you're small, because you have no idea what they're going to be doing. And you probably need to grow into that position as well. So if you don't already have an assistant, whether that's in person or online, you don't have different roles already, you probably need to start with smaller roles and then grow into an operations position. So keep in mind, you guys, I started my law firm April, May of 2018. Kayla didn't come in until April, May of 2020. So 2 years in, and then she didn't become full-time. I would say the end of 2020 or early 2021 is when she became full-time. So don't think like, oh, I just started my business, I need somebody in operations. No, you'll work up to it, but keep in mind, you're going to get there eventually.
Right. Like we've all grown into the roles that we have. And I think that's why we've been those that last the longest in your company are going to be the ones that grow in that position. And then they, evolves into other things.
Yeah.
So my next topic is characteristic. Prepared for anything.
Yes. Prepared for anything. Oh my gosh.
Yes. The good, bad, ugly. As a sub note, I put like problem solving skills.
Yeah.
But yeah.
One thing that I would like to ask, so you guys, this is completely unscripted. Like Kayla was prepared to interview me last week. I was like, prepare some questions. I have not prepared any questions. I am just asking whatever comes up. So you have seen a lot in my personal life and my business life, but business, you saw obviously the launch of Legalpreneur, the brand, us really growing the Legalpreneur membership, and now changing gears to Legalpreneur, the company. And you have seen me many times being kind of frantic, like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, is it time to call it quits? And so I'm curious, like, what has been your point of view in those really tough times when I come to you? So I will tell you guys, like, sometimes it's hard. It's like, okay, I have to go to Kayla for like business shit and personal shit. And so that's why we call each other so many times a day. And so we have to separate. And having one person literally be your everything, like it's not always easy. So I'm very curious, like what has been your point of view when I come to you with those like, oh my God, like what the fuck are we doing? Is it time to call it quits?
Yeah, I mean that, okay, so most recently you came to me and I'm like, okay, in the back of my mind, I'm like, you've lost your mind. But I think that like,
by the way, she was very calm about this, you guys. I literally, so this was the first time, I'll just straight up say it. So last week I told Kayla, because it's been a struggle. Like we haven't made huge leaps and bounds the way I have wanted to, the way that I'm used to. And so now we're trying to raise money again. And what happened was I started pitching a lot of investors again. And when I was pitching these investors, I was like, you know what? Like, damn, if this doesn't work, like I can't keep doing this. In my head, I'm having this conversation with myself. And then I finally tell Kayla, I was like, I think I'm done at the end of this year. And she's like, she said, you mean like done with the investment stuff? And I said, no, like done with Legalpreneur. If I said, I think I'm going to shut it down at the end of the year if we don't have more momentum or if we haven't raised a seed round, because I like in my personal life, it's been a struggle. I told Kay, I was like, I haven't paid myself a full paycheck in like a year and a half. And many people think like, oh, her life looks great. Like she's got this going on and that going on. Like I haven't paid myself in a year and a half. If you want to know what pays my bills, pretty much it's poker. And I'm just like, damn, like I am like, is it all worth it? So I tell this to Kayla and
yeah, it's just like in that moment, I'm like, okay. And so part of what works about this though, is that you learn the times to speak up and you learn the times to be quiet. And at that moment, it wasn't, the time wasn't right. I need to get my thoughts together, because obviously I'll share in a second, like what it came from. But anyway, it just wasn't the time to like say anything. And obviously like I know where it's coming from because I've been with you during those investor conversations and so on. But then you have a different friend who speaks up, Courtney, and says, you're crazy. The same thing I'm thinking in the back of my head, like you're trying to change an industry. But what's happened is, this is going to kind of go a different route from your original question, but like, what in these investor meetings, especially when you're trying to like grow something to the next level, it's kind of like getting on Facebook or social media as a teenager. Like teenagers are getting on social media and comparisonitis is like going crazy. Like their brains are in overdrive. Like they're constantly comparing themselves to someone else. So in this journey and trying to raise money, we are comparing ourselves to, who we think is getting the investment dollars. And so, no, like we're not shutting this down because that's crazy, because we know that we have something really, really awesome. And an investor's decision to invest in us has everything to do with them, not us. Like we know where we're at and what we have to offer and what we're going to grow. But it's just like hiring someone, investing. Like you got to get to know somebody before you hire, especially for like, a small business. They're looking to hire somebody for 100K. Okay. These investors are looking for that's a big deal to hire somebody at 100K when you're just starting off. So you want to get to know this person to make sure you're not going to fail. So the investors are the same way. And right now is a really hard time in the world. And so if I was an investor wanting to invest millions, like I'm protecting my investment and making sure I'm investing in the right places. But anyway, long story short, like, no, we're not quitting because we know exactly what we want. And it is hard as your best friend and operations person to know when to be quiet and when to provide feedback. But yeah, hopefully that answered the question.
Tell him what Billy said. So the next day, so that night after I told her, I called my friend Courtney and I was telling her, I was like, because you all listeners, like I've talked about my spiritual journey. And so I was talking to Courtney about the spiritually what was coming up for me. I'm like, I just feel like I have been struggling for so long. And so I just feel like there's a spiritual meaning that maybe I'm just not meant to be doing this. And she basically was like, shut the hell up. Like you are literally trying to change an entire industry. You're not just like trying to improve something. You are doing something nobody has ever done before. And then I told Kayla the next morning, and both of them kind of just like really helped me change my perspective. And I was like,
yes,
you're right.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, okay, so my significant other, he is a good bit older than me, and he is the calm to my storm. I told Andrea the other day, she was talking about someone, and I was like, listen, we are a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think that those of you listening can agree, especially if you're like startups or entrepreneurs, like you have to be a lot to be crazy enough to venture out and do this. So the significant others of all of us, including the listeners, like we need to take a moment to celebrate them because we are a lot. And Billy, when I said this in his very calm tone or whatever, I don't know exactly what he said, but he was like, you guys are awesome and you can do anything. What are you talking about? Is she lost her mind? And I was like, yeah, basically. But sometimes you need that like kick in the butt to like really, it's kind of like on tour. The last like 2 or 3 years, I haven't been doing well. And so when you were talking earlier, this kind of crossed my mind. Like we have to do a good job of like recognizing when things don't work. And being honest with ourselves. Like we're so good at winning. We're so good at creating things that sometimes when we do something and it doesn't work, we're like, holy hell, what now? Well, on tour, things weren't going well. Well, I was emotional and crying and angry and mad and all the things. And finally one night, Billy was like, hey, like, stop it. Either you're going to stop being emotional about this and put in the work to make this work, or you're going to stop doing it. And so like, your conversation was very much like my professional career in that, okay, cool. It's not working, but we're not going to get anywhere until we admit that it's not identify what's not working and work harder. Like, okay, cool. You're working hard, but obviously it's not hard enough. Yeah. So, we want it to be easy, but you sent me some screenshot of something that's like,
Oh yeah. It was a Gary V screenshot. I'm going to pull it up because it was really good. I was like, oh, this is so timely.
The slower you need to go or something. Like when you're trying to accomplish really great things, like it's not going to be easy or everybody would be accomplishing really great things.
Yeah. I saw this on LinkedIn. Gary V had posted, remember, the bigger the ambition, the slower you need to go. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like nothing could have been more perfect to see at that time. Because I've said it before, but I just want to make sure that all the listeners understand. We will sell Legalpreneur for at least $1 billion, and we are we are in the process of changing the legal industry for small businesses and attorneys. And now when I think about like what I told you and Courtney, it does sound really silly because I'm like, I've been at this or I haven't paid myself in a year and, fully paid myself in a year and a half. And you hear all these stories about entrepreneurs that have been going at this for like 5, 6, 7 years. And then they finally, get a break or then they blow up. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Right. And to each their own. Like they might blow up in 5 to 7 years. We might blow up in a decade. Like that's not, to each their own. And I think that we can very easily as entrepreneurs, especially in this space, get so caught up in like what our wants and needs in that moment and comparing ourselves to what we think everybody else is doing. Yeah. And that's not always true. So yeah, that was an interesting start. Was that this week or was that last week? I don't know, but I was like, oh my God, here we go. My goodness.
But then I did. So then I talked to Kayla and I was like, I kicked my own self in the butt and I was like, okay, you got to get real with yourself. Like there are things that you're like, this is me talking to myself. I was just like telling myself, like, there are things that you are not like performing the way you say. Like there are things you're not doing, Andrea, that are holding you back. Like, for example, I know high performers, like they work out, they eat healthy and and do all this and do all that. Well, I haven't been working out, which I don't fault myself for not working out, but I keep wanting I keep talking to myself and saying like, oh, I want to do this, but I'm just not fucking doing it. And then literally, I think my body was just like, all right, it's time. And Monday morning, I woke up at 4 a.m. on my own, wide awake. And I was like, maybe you should go to CrossFit this morning at 5 a.m. And I was like, no, just go back to bed. No. I got up and went to CrossFit at 5 a.m. and I went 3 days this week, which I'm really proud of because I haven't done CrossFit since before Allie was born.
Yeah.
And it's just like these little things that I'm catching myself and I'm like, hey, if you want to be a high performer, like you have to change. Like there are more things, like you may be doing a lot right now. You may be doing good, but in order to be great, there's more you have to do.
Right. You got to put in the work. Exactly. Yeah. Like if we're expecting someone else to invest in us, we've got to be the best version of ourselves. And working out is the number one thing that I pay a small car payment every month because working out, like all those things are so important.
Yeah.
That was one of my characteristics was you got to be tough. And that was a tough conversation.
And it's being mentally tough because I can go work out at any time of the day, but I've actually enjoyed getting up at 4:15 and going to work out to CrossFit at 5 because I get my workout done and it's all about discipline because I told Kayla, so basically I stopped snoozing my alarm because I stopped snoozing my alarm and because I was like, oh shit, it's all about discipline. And so all week I've been working by like 6:30, 6:45 in the morning. So I'm able to get so much more done and I feel good. Like, anyways.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, I knew all of this as your best friend, like when you said that, where it was coming from and all the things. So yeah, small crisis averted. Check. Entrepreneurs can still protect their business. Go ahead. What?
Huh?
I said entrepreneurs can still get their business protected. The Legalpreneur is still here.
Yes, we're not going anywhere. There are many days, you guys, that I have those thoughts, though. But that was the first time I ever spoke it out loud. And I actually felt sick to my stomach. I was like, that actually doesn't feel good to me. And so I was like, okay, that's not a thing. But I got it out of my system. So
that's a great action. Like those of you who have thought about quitting, like say it out loud, see what it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it doesn't feel good, don't do it.
Yeah. Well, do you have any final thoughts as the operations manager, my backbone, my right hand, my everything?
No. It's been fun. I can't imagine what life would be without it. Like it's an adventure every day. But I think that like a good person in summary, for your operations person is someone like an athlete. Like we're constantly chasing endorphins and every day is a new play. I will say, however, we ended the last episode with things you say that get on my nerves. Have you thought of any? Do you have a good one?
I'm
scared to hear what you're going to say.
Okay, things you say that get on my nerves.
This needs to be a TikTok series.
I don't know if it's things that you say or more of like the tone of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's just the tone. I'm like, oh my God, this bitch right here.
So I will say that like, I know exactly the moments that you're talking about. And it only happens like, I would say every 2 months-ish. And like, that is my time. Like when it comes out, I'm like, you need to take a break. And it teaches me in life too. Like, gosh, Billy, man, he can get on my last nerve. And when I feel it coming, I'm like, okay, you should go work out or do something different. That's funny that you say that.
Yeah, there's really nothing that you actually say that gets on my nerves. I think sometimes it's just the tone. Yeah.
No, bitch, I haven't sent that email out yet. Oh my gosh.
Listen, one day we're going to be hiring and all of y'all listening are going to want to apply because y'all are going to be like, I want to work with those two.
I hope they do. It is really a great time. Like working with Legalpreneur is so fun, not just because of fun, what a cliche word, but it's not just fun because of like Cassie's great. Like all of the people that we work with are fantastic. But it's really rewarding. Like you're working with all kinds of entrepreneurs from all over the country, all over the world with all these really great ideas. And small businesses are going to change the world.
And we're literally changing an industry.
Yes, exactly. But yes, thanks for having me. This was fun. I'm excited. If you guys liked it, make sure you comment. I want to come back.
Yes. Leave us a review. Comment if you see it on YouTube, on the gram, TikTok. Send us some love, please. Thank y'all.
Here at Legalpreneur, we're committed to providing a supportive legal community for all business owners. I know how scary the legal stuff can be. If you found this information helpful, I would be so grateful if you could share it with a fellow business owner. And quite frankly, it doesn't cost anything to rate, review, or subscribe to the show. Your support helps me reach more listeners, which allows me to support more business owners in their entrepreneurial journey. Have any questions or comments about the show? Feel free to drop me a line on Instagram. I promise I read all of the messages and comments. And if you want to be a guest on the show or know someone that would make a great guest, simply fill out our application form and a team member will reach out if we think it's a good fit. I'll see you in the next episode.